Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask Junglr. I totally forgot to do the intro, unfortunately, but that's fine. We will start early. So, if this is your first joining in, I want to give you a huge welcome. And if you are a returning listener, also want to say welcome as well. And thanks so much. I'm glad that you are finding value from this stream. So, the stream is pretty simple. The way that it works is you can ask whatever questions you may have into the chat on whatever platform you are listening in on. And from there, I will pull it up and we will get you some answers to your Amazon advertising questions. A lot of really cool stuff coming out. There's a lot of talk in the space. So you can feel free to ask anything. If we want to talk about AMC data, some really interesting data points between we've been getting into AMC versus like customer what is it? I think it's like customer retention, customer lifetime inside of brand analytics. Super interesting. That's kind of like the buzz in the talk right now. How to leverage AMC, especially seeing it now as we are going into Q4. We got Black Friday, Cyber Monday right around the corner. We just got off of October Prime Days, which is fantastic. Definitely saw a really heavy lift for a lot of our brands during that. So just a lot of prep work going into Q4, and also been auditing a lot of accounts recently with some structures. There was one account that I audited just yesterday when we had the conversation, and I'm like, hey, look, by the way, this ad strategy that you have right now, you are pretty much some of the sales are behind on certain products, and I was like, I can absolutely tell you why, because you're focusing most of your spend on automatic campaigns and broad match campaigns is where most of your spend is going. But then two, come like December 23rd, December 24th, depending on when your ship times reach, like you're not going to get there by Christmas, I can guarantee you that your ACOS is going to shoot through the freaking roof, and it's mainly because of the campaign setup. So, which by the way, if anyone wants to get access to that, I do put out our completely free. I do put out our audit reports, which this is part of what we put together. We obviously audit a little bit more in accounts, but this is actually like I gave away for free our audit sheet. I call it like our Amazon 360 audit sheet, which allows you to see like, how did I know that 24% of their total spend was being spent on a close match at was it $3 CPC, and ACOS was above 60%? It was because they literally used this report, which runs off of a single bulk file. So if anybody would like access to that, or would like to grab the video where I explain and go through the entire step by step, I was saying so many free tools from Junglr. Yeah, we want more. If you have any insights on tools, I'm thinking about potentially putting out a tool. I know a lot of brands right now are doing like annual planning. So projections, annual planning, that's a little bit more of an enterprise thing, but a lot of brand managers right now are having to put together those annual plans. And so that might be something to look into. Trying to think of other things that are top of mind for me. AMC is definitely top of mind. I know I'm getting a lot of questions around that. So anyways, if anyone else has any Amazon ad questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat. Let me get up our little banner cursor so you guys know. Use the chat to ask whatever Amazon advertising questions you would like across anything. It could be catalog. I get a lot of questions, or I've gotten a lot of questions recently around, hey, what's the best setup when you have a lot of variations? So for context, we deal with a lot of clothing brands, which those ones, when it comes to variations on listings, Asaf's here saying hello, happy Thursday to you as well. If you have any questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll make sure to pull those up. But yeah, going back to like variations on listings, and there is some questions about like pros and cons, like should I keep these as a variation? Should they be their own standalone listing? What's kind of the best? So if there's any questions around that, because that's one that we've dealt with a lot, and actually seen a lot of the nuances of like pros and cons of from an advertising perspective on variations or not. Good question. So ASF is asking, AMC is now available in every account. How do we use it properly? That's a good question. So there's essentially two ways right now that you can leverage AMC. The first one is analytics. And I'll talk about some of the ways you can use it. It's really much it's an open book in terms of what is potentially pullable with AMC, because AMC is essentially a database that you can query. Query just means like, hey, I want to ask questions. So I'll kind of talk about analytics last. But the other way that you can use it is by creating, you know how placement percentages work, right? So you can essentially create a placement percentage increase on a specific audience. So, what is an audience? An audience is a group of shoppers that have certain characteristics, and those characteristics can be almost infinite. Okay, like we went down the rabbit hole. Did you know you can actually specify like the average times of day that are shoppers? Because one thing we found is like, oh, these products actually perform best towards the end of the day. So we like, our developer went down the rabbit hole. He's like, hey, I can actually pull an audience of shoppers who primarily do their shopping after 4 p.m. Like, I mean, the amount of incrementality you can get here is pretty infinite. But if you think about it, like, so you have like all shoppers across Amazon, right? And then you might create an audience. You say, okay, for a retargeting audience, I would like someone who has interacted with my, or who has landed on my detail page. Okay, so I would like a shopper. Let's go even deeper than that, right? Let's take a shopper who has landed on my detail page, who has also added my product to cart, but then also hasn't purchased, right? So we're creating these segments of shoppers. And that can be really powerful because with a placement percentage, you say, hey, Amazon, if you are able to get me, in the case of like say top of search, if you're able to get me top of search, I'm willing to pay a little bit more. But in this case, you're saying, hey, Amazon, if you are able to get me in front of these shoppers, I am willing to pay a little bit more. And again, the little bit more is determined by you. So if you want to do a 5% increase, and we like doing like a 10 to 20% to test. They are exactly like placement percentages though as well, in that you can't like turn off other placements. So you can't like only make it an audience campaign as of right now. I don't know if that will change, but as of right now, you can't. So you're only just willing to pay a little bit more for that. And then you can also attach it to sponsored brand ads. Works the exact same way. Hey, Amazon, I'm willing to pay a little bit more if you can serve this sponsored brand ad. There you can couple a lot of really powerful things because there's creatives involved, right? So if you wanted to go more aggressively after a certain audience, you could maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your placement percentage and maybe be a little bit more intentional with your creative. So a lot of really powerful things coming out here. So that's kind of how it works. Now, in terms of setting up the campaigns, you know, and quote, doing it properly, in our experience, leveraging audience placements works. I don't want to say works best, but you are able to capture more of that audience if you use a broader targeting. And here's where I think coupling audiences with sponsored ads is like so powerful. Because if you think about it, a shopper, if they say land on your detail page or something, if we're just doing regular audience targeting, like say we're using DSP to retarget people, well, that might be on Amazon, that might be off Amazon. And obviously there's a lot of the ways you can like reach beyond Amazon to bring people back. So there's a lot of value to DSP, but the value in leveraging AMC with sponsored ads is that those shoppers have to be on the platform and searching, which is wildly powerful. So not only are you interacting with audiences that you've already kind of pre-built these groupings for, and Amazon has pre-built groupings. Like if you haven't tested any sort of audience, I would recommend starting a new auto campaign, keeping a decent bid, and then targeting shoppers who have added your products to the cart, but they haven't purchased yet, and run that. That would be the first campaign that I would set up as soon as you get access to AMC. But what we have found is because the shoppers have to be like in market and typing. So an example would be that you can think of like the audience, but then you're almost layering on the campaign, the strategy, the targeting, like another filter, if that makes sense. So say I had a group of shoppers, so their criteria has to be that they have, seen my product, added it to cart, didn't purchase, right? So that shopper group may be kind of low. But then if I even go further and I say, okay, let me use exact match targeting here, then those shoppers have to be going through and like typing that exact match target, which, as you can imagine, would mean that if any of those shoppers are doing that, the value in getting in front of them is like immense. So there is value, but the amount of shoppers that you would be able to get in front of is going to be very, 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 very small. And it's a numbers game with advertising. Like not every single click is going to convert. So even if you got it, oh my gosh, I got in front of this one shopper, like if they weren't really ready to buy, that's not your likelihood of converting them, right? I mean, if you think about it, even a 1% click-through rate, you're looking at 1,000 impressions. Like, I mean, you gotta get enough volume. You still have to get like 100, what is it? I think 100 impressions. Yeah, 100 impressions to get one click, right? So if you only have eligible for like one impression to serve, that's not going to do what you need it to do, right? So that's the first way. That's how I would set up the campaigns. That's how I would think about audience targeting. Now, the other thing is in terms of the analytics, that's where I'm an analytics girly. I love me some data. I love me some insights. You can pull very, very granular insights on a individual product or even target level. And why is this powerful? Because you can actually see, should I do retargeting or should I go after new to brand? So there's this talk, which is very much like typical advertising, typical marketing talk of like LTV and CAC and lifetime value of customers, and should I run retargeting ads or should I focus on new to brand, right? These are all things that are very valuable concepts and very standard in general advertising, but they're very foreign to Amazon, and especially like Amazon sellers, because we just haven't had a way that we can accurately calculate and understand these metrics on as granular level as you need to really run effective advertising. And that completely changes with AMC, which is like insane. Meaning, example, we can track the amount of repeat purchases. AMC is the best way to do this. You can technically look in the brand analytics, and it will tell you like customer lifetime value, but it's not as accurate as if you did AMC. We tested it. And so you can actually look at the total sales by month, or you can even look at them by product and pull them. And then I can say, okay, so out of these total sales, how much of these were new to brand and how much of these are repeat customers? And so what we found in one of our brands was that new to brand was quite high and they had a really good repeat purchase rate, but then our repeat purchase customers were falling off. Our percentage of sales coming from repeat customers was lower. So in that case, we would say, okay, so new to brand is very valuable because we get about a 30% repeat purchase value, which is huge. But all of a sudden we went from like 30 to 28. Oh, okay. So before we're focusing in on new to brand, which is fantastic because we know if we get people in the funnel, about 30% of them repeat purchase. But if we see that drop off, then we know, oh, wait, there's drop off here. We need to run more retargeting ads because we're seeing a drop off because we're losing that repeat purchase, right? We need to get those people back into our funnel. And so that's where the real power comes in, is before we've always talked about these concepts, and they've been sort of foreign again to the Amazon advertising world. But Amazon advertising is becoming more sophisticated and more trackable by standard marketing and advertising metrics, which I think is insane. And then we'll also open up a whole new world for larger brands who kind of speak in these concepts. Again, us being able to go in and accurately calculate these things to start kind of moving, making it allows you to make more long-term plays, if that makes sense. You can think more strategically and you can think over longer time horizons because we now have the data to be able to do that. Or before, we just didn't. Don't know if that answered your question or if that brought up more questions, but feel free to respond or like ask another follow-up question in the chat. Yes, hopefully we'll see. I will not be going to Innovate. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a homebody. I rarely show up at conferences, which is why I do stuff like this every single week. Although I had to miss the last couple of weeks, but all right. Cool. Let's get into it. So broad campaign for leather skirts is performing good. Click-through rate and ACoS 50% of orders are variants of this term. Should I create a new phrase match for phrase? If yes, should I negate the term in the broad pros and cons? I would say yes. If it's working really well, I would test phrase match. And then no, I would not negate the same term in the broad match. The reason why is because for some reason, sometimes specific search terms, so an example is an audit I did on a brand just this last week, like it was the same exact search term, horrible conversion rates in exact match. I'm talking like 4%. And then in phrase match, it was crushing it, like double that, right? There are some things in Amazon advertising, some things that are algorithmic that just honestly don't really make a lot of sense, but I know that they're a factor. I'm gonna try and get my face a little bit lower so you guys can see me over the words. And so in that case, I don't like cutting off what's already working. I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, if a term is not working, like yes, negative keywords are a powerful tool to control waste, but I don't like forcing the algorithm to do something that I want it to do, because what I have seen is that when you're doing that, it really can hurt performance and drive up cost per clicks. So long story short, yes, launch the phrase match campaign to test. No, don't negate. We're launching a $25 kids magnesium product with about $8.60 profit after cost. Was I aiming to break even? What's a realistic PPC spend per sale to get top of search quickly? Great question. And I will say it depends. But Sarah, I can send you this. Hold on. Let me add this to stage. Okay. Let's talk what's reasonable. Okay. So let's say you have you have a $25 product. And if you have $8.60, that means that you are looking at what is this? 8 divided by 12. Break even, you're looking at a 34% ACoS, which I'll be honest with you, in supplements, it depends. You're a little bit more niche down. So it's a kid's magnesium product. So it depends on how niche the product is and what the search looks like for it. But if you are targeting a 34% total ACoS, it depends on what their CPCs are and what your conversion rate is. So what you need to figure out in the first little bit is, what is my conversion rate? And then if you know your conversion rate, like let's assume your conversion rate is 10%, then you have to get a CPC of 85 cents to hit your 34% target A cost, which is going to be your break even. I'm going to say, so there's another way to play this, right? So let's assume your average CPC is $1.25. To get down to lower your A cost in a launch phase is a little bit difficult. So you can also play the game of working on organic ranking. So let's say that your A cost, like you had to be at um you had to be at 50% just to play the game because that's what the CPCs are. So then what you could do is if you're doing break even on the product as a whole, meaning like total A cost is 34, like let's say we were like, okay, well, let's just get 5% profit to at least get something. Then you need about 60% of your sales coming from advertising, and then you could at least hit the 30, which still allows you to be aggressive on your CPCs, but you just have to make sure that that translates into ranking, where about 60% of your total sales are ads and about 40% are organic, which is not a bad spot. And if you could even go higher than that, like say 32% total A cost, you're looking at that allows you like 60, what is that, 64%, which you say, okay, I only need 35% of my total sales to come from advertising. And then, I can at least start to break even on the product. This is the game I would say in terms of that is easier to play in the supplement space. Although honestly, we have some supplements, like one of our brands, we're running at like a 10 to 12% total A cost, which I would say a lot of times in supplements, you're looking at probably a 25% total A cost. It really just depends. But I would say this is the game you need to focus on. So to kind of hit break even and get to top of search, you're really looking at where do I have strong conversion rates on which keywords do I have strong conversion rates on, and which of them has a decent CPC. So let me go to Amazon and I'll show you how I would. Now, of course, you want to use keyword research tools. We've been using Data Dive, by the way, absolutely loving it. It is a fantastic tool. There's other great tools out there. But let's say we have, what did you say? Kids magnesium. So there's a whole bunch of like subcategories within kids magnesium, right? So you're looking at here, there's gummies, there's drops. We have a lot of gummies, it looks like. Gummy supplements are like amazing. I know they're not as good as capsules or liquids, but so the question would be like, is it a gummy supplement? Is it a liquid supplement? Okay, so now you can see here we have camouflage liquid magnesium for kids, magnesium gummies for kids. See how there's like long tail versions? And if we just did, I'm saying kids magnesium. So here we have kid magnesium liquid, kid magnesium sleep. Like, I'm assuming it's for sleep. There's a powder, spray, chewable. Like, there's a lot of variations. And then the question is, okay, is it a just magnesium supplement, or are there like other supplements in it? Here you're saying like, oh, it's sugar free. Okay, is there long tail variations of that? So basically you want to understand the product specifically and the sub markets that you can play in. And typically speaking, especially if you want to also rank and be as profitable as possible, your goal is to say, okay, which sub markets do I feel like I can compete in? Where can I get, the more specific you are to that shopper search, typically speaking, not always, but typically, the better your conversion rates are. And then typically speaking, the longer tail, the lower the CPCs. It's not always like that, but a lot of times it's like that. So that's a game of, okay, this is where I need to play in, like find the sub markets. And then I would say go after those first, because it's probably your top keyword in the beginning is probably not going to be kids magnesium. It's going to be something, some other sub market beyond that. Do you have any thoughts on running sponsored display campaigns on specific custom AMC audience now that Amazon added this as a targeting option? I would definitely say test it. In our experience, audience targeting and sponsored display has always kind of been a hit or miss. But that being said, now that it's been opened up, we're still in active testing phases like everybody else. So I can't give you something like across the board. But what I would say is that typically speaking, sponsored display ads don't often have a high amount of spend. And so in that case, I would say I think they're well worth testing. I would just say, again, they've been a hit or miss for us. So if you can't get them to work, meaning you can't get them profitably, then I would say I would be fine with just not running them. I have a question regarding the Q4 peak season. Other than competing all the internal Amazon checklists, what are the best practices to significantly boost sales, ideally to skyrocket results? Facebook, Google, and other paid ads are already part of the plan. I've heard strategies like publishing articles, sending newsletters can also have a strong impact. So are you also, if you're asking about off-platform advertising, that one I'm not going to be able to speak to as much. I would say if you already tackling off-platform advertising, you definitely want to make DSP as part of your ads funnel. I think is all I'll speak to that, unless there's some follow-up questions or some specifics to Amazon ads. I'll be honest with you, we have experts on the team for DSP. My expertise is not as much in DSP, so I don't speak to that as much because I want to give you guys correct information. How do I apply new AMC audiences? Should we apply them to every campaign or duplicate campaigns at low bids? How I think you've said it before. Yeah, so good question. I like setting up new campaigns to test these is our preference because it allows us to keep a closer eye on that. So if there is like a campaign that you really want to test it in, I would duplicate it. Just understand if you're duplicating things, you can sort of split impressions, meaning you'll get some impressions here and some impressions there if it's the same keyword. Again, our favorite thing to do is in a lot of ways is to, again, because of how I was talking about that segmentation and the adding targeting on top of audiences will further segment how many impressions you can get on that audience that's already, kind of a subsection. So I really like using auto campaigns or like say a low bid broad match or something like that. Using KPOC, trying to find if there's a feature like Helium 10 keyword tracker on KPOC. So KPOC does integrate search query performance data. And so you can pull that data from there. However, they're still actively working on it. So right now it just pulls in the data. There's some calculated fields and things that we're kind of consulting with them and recommending, and I think they'll tackle at some point. But that would be the only thing. In my there maybe are some, but for the most part, there's not really any good. I'm going to say this and someone's going to tell me a platform I haven't heard of or thought of, but integrating tracking data with like an analytics tool. There's a lot of obviously something we're doing is like, we're going to have to pull and integrate the two. But KPOC doesn't. So KPOC at one point was toying with the idea of adding in, but actually keyword tracking and, because essentially to keyword track, the tools have to scrape search pages, which to be honest, Amazon does not like that. And there's a lot, like it's very complicated when it comes to scraping searches. It's not, you would think it's straightforward. It's not. Because Amazon has made it complicated. And the minute that they find out that you're scraping pages, they will shut down your IP and they'll ban it. So you have to like constantly change things. It's actually quite crazy. I've looked into it. So that's why, because it's so labor intensive, a lot of tools will just buy access to data from a provider, but that's not cheap either. Again, because the cost of scraping at the volume that these tools are scraping, it's not easy to do, really. When a customer buys off a search term, you get a chance to rank on that search term. What would being benefit if a customer buys an influencer's attribution link? Good question. So any sales, regardless of where they come, off-platform traffic, on-platform traffic, will be influenced. Like they will influence BSR because BSR is just sales overall. I don't believe it depends on the shopper journey. really, it depends on the shopper journey. So for an example is we've actually run some tests and determined that getting a sale off of a product page will actually in some way benefit ranking. Like we've seen that. We've run isolated tests. But like that requires the shopper journey to happen somewhere or Amazon to like again, the back end is a little bit unknown to us, but these products we were going after were ranked high on the top keywords that we were wanting to go after. So it seems to be some correlation of how the algorithm understands the search behavior for shoppers who land on that product and then have some sort of throughput or journey and end up on our product and purchasing. Like there is some evaluation of that by the algorithm. How much that influences, where that's influenced, I couldn't tell you. And Amazon will never release that data. But from my understanding, I would believe it if they're just landing directly on the product page and then purchasing, and not, sort of taking a journey to search further. I again, this is me just giving my opinion. I'm not going to say this is fact. I would doubt that it would have an organic rank benefit, but you would have a benefit to BSR because that sale would be recorded. One of my consumable brands, Dog Food, is a 50% repurchase rate. Ads are lean and revenue hasn't grown past a few months, so I want to expand. Any recommendations on how to target new to brand customers? Yes. You can actually, through AMC, you can pull data to determine which campaigns have a greater new to brand charge from them, that's what I would do. And you can see new to brand in sponsored brand ads. I want to say you can find it on sponsored display ads, but don't quote me on that. But historically, we haven't been able to see new to brand orders versus non on sponsored product ads. And you can go even deeper than that. You can say, okay, where's the new to brand customers on these, like on which campaign from a sponsored product level do we have greater new to brands? And then on a keyword level, you can also determine where you have a greater new to brand. So what I would recommend doing is I would take a look at all of your campaigns where you have better new to brand, and then you can focus on those. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to create an audience that is segmented for like shoppers who are in your market or things like that. So that's what I would look at. But I think the easiest way is to just validate where you're getting stronger new to brand, understand kind of what that targeting looks like, what that campaign structure looks like, and then you can just double down on there. I think that's a more simplistic way of doing it. I have a question. The best fit, I guess. Yeah, so we asked this question before. I would say it sounds like you're asking about off-platform ads, which again, I don't try and speak about things that are not within my area's expertise. Like you heard me say before, like, hey, this is my opinion. This is my understanding of how it works. By the way, any data we ever put out, any analytics we ever put out, any strategies we ever put out, playbooks we ever put out, you can guarantee that it is battle tested. We never throw anything out there. Like someone was asking about like, hey, sponsored display ads for audiences. I'm like, hey, we're still testing that. I'll let you know when I know. So I'm never going to sit up here and give you guys, especially like off platform. I could probably pull something out of thin air and be like, this is what I've kind of heard, but I'm not going to be able to give you any like real answers to your question that I could stand behind with any certainty. So I'll probably just skip over that question, but sorry. Can you explain tailored brand promotions, how to best utilize? Yeah, so this one, again, I will say I'm going a little bit outside of my area expertise, but I do know I can kind of give you some answers. So I think the biggest one, you were saying like you wanted, if you have a really strong repeat purchase rate, so from my understanding, the brand tailored promotions where they can be really valuable is to offer specific coupons to people who have like interacted with your brand. So if you're like, hey, I want to get repeat customers back, you can like target those customers. If you're saying you have really good repeat purchase rates, then I would say test it, but then you would want to validate, like, did my total sales increase when I did this? Yes, I got great results from the brand tailored promotions and I can see the sales that came from that, but like, did it increase total sales overall? So that's how I would think about it. Okay, cool. Sarah's asking about the growth balance equation. It looks like you're watching on, I don't know if I gave that away in a video. I should have. All right. So share this tab. I'll give you this. So it's called a PPC audit tool. I'll share this link in chat, Sarah, and then that one in the body of in here, there's a link where you can download this. In terms of the growth balance equation. Let me just make sure I didn't make any changes to this. And I think, yeah, I'll just share this. I'll just share with you guys this link, and then you guys can just go snag it and make a copy of it. Tested Amazon best deals over Prime Day, but not sure it was any better than price discounts. I was expecting more organic traffic from using it, only beneficial use for electronics. Yeah, it can be hit or miss. In our experience, I think having coupons tend to work really well. And we've seen that if you are able to do like a 10 to 20% discount, that tends to work well. It is kind of a hit or miss depending on the products. And I agree with you, electronics seems to do the best. All right. Big question here. Let's see if I can peek above it. I'm selling 5 different types of supplements focused on women's hormonal balance, considering whether to list them as variations on one parent, keep them as individual listings. My products are 30% higher price than competitors. Thinking of using, oh goodness, this is a long question. So in terms of adding it as a variation or not, let's see, selling fry supplements. Trying to see if this question is any different. Thinking again. Pattern is decent search volume, seeing 5 to 7% conversion rates, even on capsule keywords. Thinking again, too aggressive with spend. Would video ads be a good way to build awareness, educate customers, or lower CPCs? Yeah, so you're running into the same issue before as you're getting into a competitive space and then needing to be profitable from day one. And to be honest with you, typically speaking in supplements, I don't want to say it's not possible, but it's going to be really hard for you, especially because you said that the product price is a little bit higher. So if the product price is higher, there has to be something on the listing or somewhere that will prove that it's worth it to spend that much more, which again can be difficult. Really, the best way to do that is with brain cannot think. The best way to do that is with getting reviews, which you're not going to have in the beginning, especially in supplements. Reviews are going to be really important. So in your case, I would say, again, I don't know if you were here earlier. Someone had mentioned having a kids supplement. You're saying that you have pretty decent search volume for the powder form. So maybe if you can go after the powder form, then maybe you make them a combination listing. I would say if you might want to test it if you have the products combined, like if you're able to combine them. Amazon's gotten a little bit more, and again, I'm not an expertise on back end catalog work. I do know from friends of mine who are that Amazon has gotten a little bit pickier about what you can and can't use as a variation. So you want to be careful with that. However, if you have a limited ad budget, I would say as long as you, one, can add them as a variation, and then two, as long as you the shopper experience is not going to be confusing. So, like, say I landed on a listing and there's like, I mean, this is in clothing listings sometimes, there's like 20 different products and 30 different, like, it's insane, right? And I'm like, I don't even know what I want. If you know, there's like a couple, you said there's like 5 that could work. If maybe it's like, these and there's different capsule sizes. I don't know. I don't know how different the products are. So again, you got to make sure that it makes sense that a shopper who's looking for like this product may want this one, right? So make sure that makes sense. But in your case, if you have a limited ad budget, I would say the advantages of combining them are that if you pay to get traffic to one of the variations, they're going to see the other ones. And so you won't need as high of an ad budget to push the product. So in your case, it sounds like, again, if you can combine them, it might be beneficial. What are your thoughts on Amazon changing how products rank for keywords, being more based on shopper intent and less on actual sales velocity? Do you think keyword rank tracking holds the value it used to? And should strategy change from heavily keyword ranking exact type of search to more discovery, broad reach focus? I don't know if there's really been as much as a shift as people are saying in terms of the keyword intent. Let's do a little thought experiment. Let's try this. All right, so let's look at, like, if you look at baby blanket. Those of you listening in, baby blanket's one of my favorite searches. Okay, so we're looking at baby blanket. Interesting. Amazon, of course, is taking this top one. Okay, so there's a lot of, but like these are personalized blankets. But you have these top. Okay, so these are the top organic ranking. Looks like Marvel is doing pretty good. All right, now let's do baby blankets for boys. Another top one. So here we're seeing, like, that's not even for like, there's a blue one, but it doesn't really, and these ones are a little bit. So, and I say this because I shop clothing a lot, to be honest, on Amazon. I am a woman who enjoys clothing, and I also have 4 daughters who also enjoy clothing. So we do a lot of the clothing shopping on Amazon. And I would say in the more nuanced categories, it's gotten a little better. But to be honest, in my experience, it seems to be the shopper. It seems to be a little bit more focused on sales velocity still. It's becoming more bent to it is becoming more bent to intent. But to be honest, we're not really changing much because our thesis as an agency, like, I would say even sense of let me see. We've been manually heavily testing and ranking while manually searches varies for every person who searches, even when running incognito. It just seems organic results tailored to each shopper. Yeah, in that case, I think it will get interesting, and that's, I think, where audiences come in. I think audiences will continue to get more and more important as the Amazon platform matures. And the really interesting thing is that originally when like Rufus came out and everyone, and again, I'm like one person and I just have like my small group of friends. So originally we're all like, we don't really use Rufus for shopping, but I have found that Rufus is actually really good if you have like a very specific thing that you need. It's getting better. It used to be honestly pretty crap when you ask for something really specific, but in certain cases it is getting better. which is interesting. And there are advertising placements associated with that, although right now we don't have any control over that. So I would say in the case of things like this, and I apply the same philosophy to, say, placements or other, like how something works better in abroad or not. What I say is, like, I control the things that I can't, and I try and no, I don't try and control the things I can't. I'll go crazy. I try and control the things that I can control, and I try and just manage or understand the things that I can't. And what I find, most bad ad strategies are developed by trying to obsess over something that is uncontrollable. And adjusting advertising for individualized shopper searches is uncontrollable. It just is. And so that might be why. Now, I will say, what are the things that we can control? So we can control, I would say right now we're in an interesting testing phase. So originally, dynamic up and down bidding, horrible. Like, never used it. Horrible. Recently, now there are exceptions because I just audited one brand and I was like, oh my gosh, dynamic up and down is performing like crap for you guys. You need to fix that. But what we've actually seen is that, like, dynamic up and down bidding in a lot of the brands that we're auditing, it actually has a much higher conversion rate, which again, that is tailored based on like individualized shopper intent. So I would say there are micro things we can control, and I would say test. So like maybe testing dynamic up and down bidding because that's connected to shopper behavior. Maybe testing AMC audiences because that's connected to shopper behavior. But outside of those very small things, which are very variable, and I know Amazon is also pushing for more broader targeting. So maybe, again, I hate that. I would want to be much more intentional. Or there's related, I can't tell you how many people are not testing like related targeting, but like there's related targeting. There's other interesting targeting types and things that not many people use or adjust for that I think are good tests to see, can we get the Amazon ad algorithm to help us get in front of these shoppers more intentionally? But that's about as much as we can control. So it's not a great answer, but, well, you're saying it's a great answer. So hopefully that was helpful. But I would say there's not as much as we can control. So I would say it's still really looking at conversion rates. It's using click-through rates to identify. It's looking at search query performance on our products versus the market. Like, there's a lot of fundamentals. It's identifying the data that we can have access to, and then just make sure that we're adjusting for that. I'm increasing. I have a pretty good ad budget for more than $5,000 a month. I'm open for some discount strike through for short term to compete the competitors. I know the category is competitive, cost per click is high, but for long term, how can I acquire more customers in organic sales? Honestly, it's going to be, you're going to have to focus on keywords that you have a high conversion rate on. So where out of my keywords, you can use search query performance if you're brand registered. Where do I have a high conversion rate? Where do I have higher conversion rates versus my competitor averages? And then if the CPCs are high, where can I get a better CPC? How do I get a better CPC? Is it by using dynamic up and down bidding? Is it by using down only bidding? Again, be careful with dynamic up and down bidding for with high CPC categories, but if you need to, sometimes that works. And so it's really what it is it's all about the targeting for you. It's all about the targeting. Which targets are you going after to drive that velocity? Because really, okay, yes, to Nick's point, it is individualized shopper search and it is specificity. But if you can get to a specific like subsection of the market, right? There's women's supplements, and then there's like women's health, something like there's subsections of the market, and you can see that in the searches. So what you want to do is analyze the searches and understand, where does my product fit in the market, You can take a look at your competition, where they fit in the market, what game can I play, and then you make your hypothesis. And this is a game I think I can play, so I'm going to pick these select search pages, these select targets to go after for ranking, and then I'm going to push on those targets. And then, do I in fact convert well for these targets? Can I get orders through these targets? How does that influence my shopper search or my search page rank? And then it's just starting to play the game. So everything is a thesis, everything is a test until you get the data feedback. And from there, you can say, okay, this is my conversion rate. This is my average CPC. But it sounds like you're kind of in the beginning right now. So what I would say to anyone who's starting out or anyone who's beginning, there's this idea that like from day one, I have to pick like the keywords that are going to be my keywords. I have to have the bid, the exact bid I need. I need to have the perfect starting bid and the perfect starting budget. Everything you do prior to launching that campaign not just gets you to the starting line. You want to make the best judgment calls you possibly can, given your understanding of the market. And hopefully I've given you some clues here about like, hey, take a look at specific searches. Does your product fit well on that page? It sounds like you're being intentional with that because you were looking at, kind of powders versus capsules. Like that's fantastic. That kind of like understanding the market, fantastic. Okay. But from there, you want to launch those campaigns, and then you just need to see, like, can I get impressions for this bid? Should I push this up? Can I get more aggressive? Oh, does this convert at all? And then from there, you really start making your strategic moves because you really need to run the ads before you can figure it out, to be honest. You mentioned AMC to see which campaigns or even targets produce the most new to brand sales. Is this one of the free features, or do I need a subscription to access? It should be one of the free features. I don't know how to pull it. We have a developer on staff, and I was like, Daniel, I need help. I need to figure out AMC. I need these reports. And he went in and pulled it for me. So it's using, if you've ever used a filter formula inside of a spreadsheet, it's basically saying, hey, I want to capture this information when this thing is like this, and this thing is like this, and this thing is like this. So it might be one singular report. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think he combined a couple of reports, but I think that was for something else I asked him for. But it should be free. It's not paid because it's all the ads data. I'm forgetting which data in there is the paid feature, but I know everything we're pulling, we haven't had to use any of the paid options, so you should be good. And from my understanding, the AI builder is just for the audiences. It's not for just regular analytics querying, but yes, it is with the free feature. Cool. And with that, we are a couple minutes out. I do have a hard stop because I do have a call. I will probably end it here on that case. So with that, I appreciate everybody joining. You guys have been awesome. A lot of really freaking fantastic questions. I appreciate everyone joining, and I will catch you guys all same time, same place next week. And hope you enjoy your week, and see you soon. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.